It's time for Adam Rank versus the Machine. And right now, of course, joining us is the brains behind the machine, Doc Ross. Doc, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm a little, I'm a little upset because I went 3-3 on the weekend. I did have the homer pick of the Bears, so I don't know. It still counts. I picked the Bears. Like, I'm not going to run away from that. The machine went 4-2. I will point out, though, that again, homer pick of the Bears. I had the Rams losing a close game that was very low scoring, which might have been interesting to some people. I'm not saying who, but some people might have found that interesting. But what was the thing that stood out to you the most about this weekend?
I mean, the two games I found the most interesting was the last one, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, was just crazy. I mean, kind of a crazy game because Cleveland obviously came in with a lot of swagger, like looked really confident, and that's got to give you some sort of, feeling good about them going forward. But the whole game was kind of fluky, like the turnover touchdown right away, and they still 5 yards, touchdowns to Ben. Really know that game was crazy. Did not predict that outcome at all, and I think it's going to be very interesting how you take that going forward. The other game that I thought was really interesting was the Baltimore game because they seemed to really take care of business. They continued to rush for a ton of yards like they normally do, contained Derrick Henry, and just looked really good when it's Lamar Jackson getting his first playoff win. So I think Baltimore fans have to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I really enjoyed was the fact that we can now put to bed the Lamar Jackson hasn't won a playoff game thing. So that narrative's gone. Josh Allen also gets to put the rest. He's never won a playoff game, so I'm happy for this. And I think when I look at the when I look at the AFC, like all those teams are fun. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind any of the, like, I don't care which one of those teams goes to the Super Bowl. I hope one of them wins it. I like them all. The Chiefs are about one more Super Bowl away from being hateable, but currently they're still fun. So I think the AFC is like the most enjoyable side of this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, great games over there. Josh Allen also, as you said, had a great game. The only question mark I put on him is that the Colts still hung with him the whole way, and their defense was not as strong as I thought they would be. So not to come down too hard on them. It's an amazing team, so I think they have a lot of potential there, but that's the only question mark.
The Bills fans are still on my side, so I don't want to point out any of that stuff like, hey, your defense is kind of scaring me. But I get completely what you're saying. And the NFC side, it's a bunch of teams that suck and nobody likes. No, I'm just kidding. There's really, like, outside of the Packers are like the only hateable team that's still left in the playoffs. The only of the 7 teams that are still going, the Packers are the only one you're like, I don't want them to win. Everybody else is cool. Although you're a Vikings guy. You'd have to agree with that, right?
I do. Although I do like Aaron Rodgers inexplicably. The only other team I'd say is, there's a lot of people out there, especially here in the Northeast, who would not like to see Tom Brady win another ring.
Why do I'm curious why. I mean, politics aside or anything like that, I've always been a Tom Brady fan. Like, I was a huge fan of his in 2001, mostly because I hated the football team that played in St. Louis, being a person who's out here in Southern California. So I wanted nothing to do with the St. Louis football team. And no kids will understand this, but the Patriots were the underdog that everybody rooted for in 2001. Like, everybody wanted the Patriots to win, which seems so ridiculous. It's kind of like if you're watching Clone Wars or something, or if you're like these kids are like, wait a minute, we rooted for Darth Vader at some point. You're like, yeah, Darth Vader was actually a good guy and everybody loved him. And that's kind of the way the Patriots were at some point many years ago. But in any event, let's get to some picks. Because I know that's what, if the people haven't dropped off on YouTube, I forgot about that. I was like, because we're doing a podcast, we're doing the Adam Rank podcast. And of course, if you only watch this on YouTube and you're only here for the game picks, you can listen to the Adam Rank podcast. There's like a 10-minute preamble talking about the Bears situation. So if you want to hear that stuff, if you're a Chicago person and that's the stuff that you're looking for, The Adam Ray podcast will drop. Mitch Hine will work that out for us. But let's talk about the Rams and Packers. See, Ross, I went against my own thing I told you last week. I'm like, we got to hit those. We got to hit the picks right off the top, although we didn't talk football.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're too far off the trail. But let's talk about the Rams and the Packers. We'll try to keep our bias out of this. This will be the first one. This is the first game. And I don't like you and I think that I'm not telling tales out of school to let people know that we hang out in March, or we hang out in Las Vegas every March, and it's a lot of fun. I'm still trying to get you to come out to Vegas for the divisional round of the playoffs because it's the most enjoyable weekend of the year. And when that first game hits, it's always a lot of excitement. The NFL is giving us a pretty good one right off the top. I know a lot of people might not think this is going to be a good game. What does the machine see for the Rams and the Packers?
Yeah, the machine likes the Packers here. So the predicted score in this one is 21 for the Rams, but 26 for Green Bay playing at home.
What are the key things? What is the machine seeing? Why is the machine favoring the Packers? Because, I understand that sports writers and everybody who loves narratives thinks that Aaron Rodgers is a good player and people love him. The machine should be cold and calculating and know that Aaron Rodgers sucks and his faults are going to be exploited in this game. What is the machine seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at Green Bay, their overall record, and then the statistics at home. At home, they rush for a lot of yards, have a good average gain, and control time of possession. And the Rams, historically, when they're on the road, have not been great at controlling those. Although at Seattle, they obviously did very well.
Thank you.
But I think, and then when you add Aaron Rodgers at home, that's a pretty good factor to have in your side.
Aaron Rodgers is garbage, and he's garbage in the play. Now, here's my thing, and this is one of the things, and I don't want to give away my pick, although everybody knows I'm not picking the Packers, so what do I care? Here comes the big reveal, ranks going against the Packers. But what we saw in Week 17, and now that Bulaga's out and not going to be there, the Bears were getting pressure on Aaron Rodgers, getting a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And I believe that there was a minimum of 3 picks that were dropped. And that to me was significant. And I know a lot of people didn't pay attention. It ended up being a blowout, and that kind of stuff gets overlooked. But I really do think that this Rams team, with Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd, who's been playing fantastic, you got Jalen Ramsey, and I hope the Rams are going to use him to shadow Devontae Adams. I think Aaron Rodgers could be in a lot of trouble in this game. And I don't think the Rams are going to be dropping interceptions like the Bears were the last time we saw them. I think that this is a huge problem for the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the weaknesses that I see here, it's pretty much what you're saying or what I already alluded to. They played very well on the road against Seattle, their defense, and they also control total plays and time of possession on the road in the recent history. So there's no question this defense could get after those guys, and if they give Aaron Rodgers trouble, then that's obviously going to be a problem.
Russell Wilson had a completion percentage of just over 40%. Wilson was pressured on 43% of his dropbacks, close to 49% of his dropbacks, the highest he had faced all season. So I see a Rams team that is really starting to catch a groove. And I know a lot of people will think of it's a West Coast team, soft-ass West Coast team going out and playing against the Packers. But remember a number of years ago when the 49ers would always go to Green Bay, once in Green Bay and I think once in San Francisco, where they would give the Packers so much trouble. And it was a Colin Kaepernick game. I don't think it's not unheard of for a West Coast team to go to Green Bay and play very well. So, you know what? I'll throw mine out first. I say the Rams win this game. I have the Rams winning 28-24. What does the machine say as a final score for this one?
Does have the Packers. So Packers 26, Rams 21.
All right.
So similar totals there, but different which way.
I feel like I'm going to be penalized, at least here in the first couple of rounds, maybe throughout the entirety of the playoffs, of me constantly making homer picks of going against the Packers, picking the Bears. I will say, though, this is not a homer pick for me. And if the Packers were playing the Saints or the Vikings, I don't know. But, I just think that this is a bad matchup. And I know that the Packer fans were having a good old time, laughing it up that they get to play the Rams and don't have to play. And And I know they were saying like, oh, like Tom Brady hopes he doesn't have to play the Packers. Like the Buccaneers will give the Packers the same problem that the Rams are going to give them. So there's no easy road for the Packers, and not having Bakari is going to be a huge thing for them. The machine says the Packers can survive for a week. I don't believe that's going to be the case. Let's move on to the Bills-Ravens game. Now, this again, going back to the Vegas example, this is the funnest game of the weekend because Saturday, you're still going to be in Vegas the next day. So you can kind of, maybe I will do a shot type of thing. And it usually gets sideways about halftime where you're so drunk you can't even pay attention to the game anymore. But, now that I'll be sitting here on my couch watching this, it'll be weird watching the second half of this late Saturday game. But let's talk about this one. Which way is the machine leading with the Bills and the Ravens?
Machine has this really, really close. So the actual predicted score is actually exactly the same. So 25-25 with like a very slight edge towards Baltimore. And I know that sounds kind of silly because like analysts like you will actually predict like a real score, right? But that just shows how closely the algorithm values both of these teams. And it's amazing stories too. Like they both, Lamar Jackson has his first playoff win. Josh Allen has an amazing performance to get them their first playoff win since '95. Both teams have got to be feeling great. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, you know what? And I think that the Titans continue to try to go through the ground. They want to establish the run. The Bills really don't have that problem. I think the Bills are already determined that they're going to throw the football, and that's not going to be a big issue for them. So they're not going to try to force feed a running back to get him going. And if you look at the next gen stats, Josh Allen was 4 of 5 for 129 yards and a touchdown on passes with at least 20 air yards. He was 13 for 13 for 193 yards, targeting receivers aligned in the slot, which I think could end up being a huge issue for the Baltimore Ravens. So I think that, it's a different thing because I thought you're watching Tannehill anytime he went after, because I know that A.J. Brown's not a slot receiver, but once they were able to figure out where to go with the football, they were very good. And I think the Bills are going to have a little bit a better success going against this Ravens defense than the Titans did.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens did have good passing defense. They had good all-around defense against Tennessee, but you're right. This is a step up in level of competition. I think another big key is going to be, can anyone stop the Ravens rushing game? I mean, I think that's, the Bills recently have done pretty well, that they did not do too good against Indianapolis. But if the Ravens rush like they have been, that's going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things, the knock against the Ravens has always been they can't catch up. Once they fall behind, they're done. They don't have the offense that can catch up. That was immediately erased. Lamar Jackson literally single-handedly erased that almost by himself with one touchdown run. That was one of the most incredible plays that I can remember seeing in the playoffs in quite some time. So I think this is close. So obviously the machine has this as a 50-50 split. I know you're saying 25-25. I guess that's interesting to some people. Like, I don't know why, but some people might find that, and we'll be able to figure out which way to go on that one. So I guess when the machine is stumped at 25-25, it's going to be up to you, Doc, to pick the winner, which you have to pick a winner, though. That's the one thing. We can't just be like, hey, unless it can't be a tie. So the machine has to have a winner on record. Which way are you going? You said slight lean Baltimore. Is that where you're going to go?
Yeah, machine slightly likes Baltimore. It's not by a lot at all, not even to get up to 1 point difference, but likes Baltimore. So the official machine pick will be Baltimore.
I love it. You know what? And I'm going to still go with the Bills. I'm going to have the Bills taking this 28-27. So I'm going to be very similar to you. 28-27.
Yeah.
I don't, sometimes when you look at these games, there is a fun factor to it. And I think that the Bills just having a little bit, not that the Ravens, don't have mojo, don't have moxie. Like, it was kind of cool. Like, it was interesting. And I know I got heat on Twitter for this because when they were stomping on the logo, there was like a minute 50 left. Tennessee still had 3 timeouts. And I'm like, guys, this isn't over. Like, and everybody's like, oh, like, stop being a hater. It's like, I was not hating on the Ravens. I was saying this not like they're reading Twitter during the game, but it's like, don't lose focus in this. Like, don't focus so much on stomping on the logo and everything like that you don't go out and get this first down, because that really needs to happen. That was my point. I wasn't hating on the Ravens. I wanted the Ravens to win. If you know my history with the Tennessee Titan fans, you know that I wanted the Ravens to win. I do feel, though, that the Ravens, they kind of got over a hump there. And I'm not saying that they're going to let up or they're walking into a trap game like the regular season. But I think there is a thing of the mentality of like, we defeated this team that's been giving us trouble forever. I don't know. It's a human being element, and this is why it's man versus machine. This is why I'm going with Buffalo. And by the way, and I said this on Twitter too, if I'm a Bills fan and you're jumping through a table in the parking lot or doing anything like that, like you guys love ECW so much, why do you not wear Blue World Order shirts? That does not make any sense to me. I will be wearing a Blue World Order shirt because I'm officially throwing my weight behind the Bills. So we're differing on both games on Saturday, which I guess maybe a little bit of a mild surprise. Let's go to the first game on Sunday morning, at least out here on the West Coast. Although I don't know if they changed that, because that was one of the things that always bummed me out. I always hated that they had a 10 a.m. start. Like, listen, give us you program us to watch Sunday Night Football 17 weeks out of the season. Give us Sunday Night Football in the best weekend of the game, of the week, of the season. Like, give us a 1 o'clock and give us a 5 o'clock out here on the West Coast. But let's talk about that Chiefs game. The machine was very impressed with the Cleveland Browns. Did the Browns have a chance in this one? What's the machine saying?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the machine was and was not. I mean, Cleveland took advantage of some really fluky things at the beginning of that game. And they did look good, and they obviously put up a ton of points in that first quarter. But they still let Pittsburgh. Now maybe they already sort of felt like they had things under control. But Pittsburgh comes back, scores 37 points, 500 passing yards, 4 TDs to go with his 4 picks from Big Ben. So that makes me question a little bit, like, what's going to happen with these guys? Like, they look very confident, lots of swagger, but they still gave up a ton of points and a ton of yards. So I'm not sure what to make of these guys. Kansas City has been playing really well all year. And Cleveland on the road, they don't, nothing really stood out to me with their statistics on the road. Whereas Kansas City really plays, pretty well at home.
Yeah. So I feel the same way. I like the Browns, and I'm not hating on the Browns or anything like that. I love Baker Mayfield. I think anybody who watches NFL Fantasy Live knows that I love Baker Mayfield. Always have defended him. Like, he is my guy. So I back him up and everything like that. And I don't want to discount them. And I know right here on my notes, I've written down Chiefs winning 35-20. I'm going to bump that up to 35-27. So I really do believe the Browns are going to make a bigger game of this than a lot of people are probably going to be anticipating. I do like the fact that they're coming off a huge win. They've got that momentum. And I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm like, well, this could hurt the Ravens. I think the Browns are a little bit different. I think they're a little bit more indignant, and I think they have that kind of swagger that Tennessee had last season, where they're like, we're not afraid of anybody. We're going to punch this team in the mouth. And typically, teams that rest their starters in week 17 do not play very well in their first playoff game. And it's, Patrick Mahomes has now gone 2 weeks without playing football. And we saw what happened last year when they fell behind huge to the Houston Texans. Mm-hmm. And so I think that this is going to be one. And we've seen this from the Chiefs an awful lot this season, where they kind of start off slowly and they kind of, I don't know if this is significant to anybody, but I would really favor the Browns in the first half, just, as an aside. But I think that ultimately, I think the Chiefs have too much. And eventually, like, maybe it's one of those instances where the Browns are driving to score it and the Chiefs make up that one play that ends it. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. Like I said, 35. I'm switching it to 35-27. I think the Chiefs just have too much. And I think they have too much firepower.
I mean, I think so too. Cleveland's coming off a great mental win, but when they're on the road, they give up, a ton of first downs, total yards, passing yards. time of possession. And when you got Kansas City at home with Mahomes, even if he's a little rusty, you got to think that looks good for them. So Machine has a similarly not huge margin, but it has Kansas City winning 32-25.
32-25. See, I almost want to push mine to 35-24. Like if I'm thinking this is the kind of game where it is where the Browns, I just feel like the Browns are going to be in it at the end. And I don't want to say that Baker throws a pick six because I don't want to put that on him or anything like that. But I feel like it's one of those things like the Browns have a chance to tie it and the Chiefs just find a way to win.
Well, yeah. So why are you going to hang 11 points on them?
That's why I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see. You know what? So I had 35-20. I see the Browns rallying to score. So it'd be 35-27. They would go for 2 for whatever reason, not make it, miss the onside kick or something like that. Anyways, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have it close. I'm gonna have Chiefs 35-27. Okay, I'm hedging it back, so I'll be sort of in line with the Machine right there. Yeah. What about the Buccaneers and Saints? Because the last game that Tom Brady was just destroyed in this season was against the Saints. It was right before their bye week in week 12, 11 or 12. Let me tell you this, though. Since that game, since the Saints embarrassed Tom Brady, he is 5-0 with 14 touchdown passes, 1 interception since the week 13 bye. So that must have been week 12 that happened. And Brady was 1-3 with 8 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions from weeks 9 through 12, and of course culminating with that awful loss against the Saints. What does the Machine say here, though? What is the Machine favoring in this matchup?
It's a very close one here. So Machine does like New Orleans by a point, so 26-25, and like it's like I said, they're both interestingly close. So I guess Tampa Bay, they looked amazing in the week before against Washington, of course, but that's not terribly surprising. And can we segue at all to talk about that Washington quarterback? What's his name? That guy? He was incredible. Yeah.
He's incredible. I'll tell you something off the air, and then you'll be like, oh, wait, I might not like this player. But in any event, as an on-the-field performance, we liked Heineke.
Just on the field, strictly on the field. Anyway,
just on the field.
Fun game to watch. So Tampa Bay and the Bucs had an amazing game, but they're playing against Washington, a four-string quarterback, and so not surprisingly they did very well. New Orleans had an amazing defensive effort, shut down the Bears more than many of us would have thought. Tampa Bay, when they're on the road, they are very good with total yards and passing yards, but they give up a lot of big passing plays, which doesn't necessarily play into Drew Brees' favor. But New Orleans at home, they're quite good with first downs, rushing, total yards. Their rushing defense is very good at home. And then you look at those 2 games where they just made Brady look silly. And, it's not necessarily – it's hard to beat someone 3 times in a row, much less beat them very badly. But New Orleans appears to know something about how to defend that guy.
Yeah, they've done a really nice job with him. And it doesn't make sense to go with the Buccaneers in this one, but maybe I'm just upset that the Saints have eliminated the Bears. And I did mention this, before you joined the podcast, that the one thing there were a couple of plays in that Bears Saints game where obviously Wims dropped the touchdown pass. Mitch Trubisky did not extend for the first down on 4th down. He just kind of ran out of bounds. Like, bro, that's the time you need to lower your shoulder. It's the goddamn playoffs, and your career in Chicago is on the line. Maybe lower your shoulder. Like, it's easy for me to say from my couch, but I'm going to say it. And then there was the bullshit Cole Kmet play that was ridiculous. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, what are you calling in a playoff game? Like, what is the energy that you're trying to give off here? And there were a couple of times where you're like, what is happening? Like, I wanted to talk to Gabby when they were explaining, because I was watching the Nickelodeon feed, and I wanted to explain to Gabby, like, when you're having to referee a game between your best friend and your worst enemy, this is the way it feels to Bears fans right now. Like, the Saints' best friends are calling this game. And I know it's not that way, but it just, as a fan, your mind goes to that. And so I think that there were some plays that the Bears could have been in. And so I look at it, and I look at the Bears defense, which I thought played very well. And this was kind of a common theme with the Bears and their defense anytime they played a really good football team, is that defense gets frustrated because they know the offense sucks and is not going to score. And they're just kind of like, well, what are we doing out here? Why am I having to jump in front of Taysom Hill if you guys aren't going to score a touchdown anyways? So for that reason, I think that the defense, if there was a competent offense scoring points, that defense would have continued to shut down that Saints offense.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to go, I think we know that, did you say the machine's going with the Saints? I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here. And that makes me, again, a homer or something, but I think I love Tom Brady. I love Bruce Arians. I hate the Saints for the moment. I like the Saints. I'm a Saints guy. I love New Orleans. Like, don't get upset. I'm still raw. If this was 2 weeks from now, I might not be picking against you, but it's still raw for me. But I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here because I do think that Brady's just been on another level over the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, machine like Saints, but just by a point. And, Tom Brady, as we've said, has been around and won a few rings. So,
and you know what's funny too is the Saints have had so many inexplicable playoff losses that just don't make sense. Ever since the Stephon Diggs Minneapolis Miracle, they had that play. They had the no call on the pass interference, which really was predicated on Sean Payton throwing the ball inexplicably. Then they had last year where they just didn't even show up against the Minnesota Vikings. That it gave a lot of people confidence in the Bears because they're like, God, the Saints have had all these weird things happen to them in the playoffs. So I don't completely trust them yet. And I think at some point we're going to have to do a deep dive when you look back on the Saints and you're like, God, for as great as Drew Brees and Sean Payton are, like if you weren't going up against that choker Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl, would you even have a ring? Like, I'm glad they did. I was rooting for him. I was super happy for it.
And that's the only year I remember. All those games you mentioned, all I remember is Bounty Gate being from Minnesota, which is the year they won that ring, which was pretty devastating for us. That was the Brett Favre Bounty Gate game.
Yeah, you know what? And the week before, I'm a big Kurt Warner guy, co-worker of mine. And I loved Kurt Warner. And I remember that game. I'm like, oh, that was just just a lot of ugliness going on too. So yeah. So there's a lot of weirdness going on with the Saints. So I can understand. So the fact that you're man enough to come out here and pick the Saints where I'm so petty that I'm still going against them because it's 1 week. See, that's the thing. Like Bounty Gate was a long time ago. Bears loss was this week. So it's like, and you know what? The Bears have now lost.
Feels like yesterday.
I know. I remember, I was in Las Vegas for that game and I was like, God, they're really going after Favre. But I was happy because I hate the Vikings and I hate Packers and I hate Brett Favre. So I was really enjoying, like that was, it's funny because I love that playoff run for the Saints so much because they beat Favre and the Vikings, which was amazing. Then they go up against Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning, of course, beat the Bears in the Super Bowl. So I didn't like that. So it was just a perfect situation for me. And the city of New Orleans is awesome. So, and the Saints, and I've got friends that work for the Saints. So I should pick them, but I think I'm going with my head by going with the Buccaneers just because they've been playing so well over the last couple of weeks.
Did you give us a score?
I did. I said 27-23.
Gotcha.
Buccaneers. Okay. I should go 27-26. I might amend that. Wait, do I want to go 27-26? What was I thinking? No, I'm going to go 27-26. No, 23. No. I'm going to stick with my original analysis. What was your final score? Was it 26-25?
26-25 Saints, so still very close.
All right. So just to recap for everybody, Rank's got the Rams, Machine's going Packers. Rank's got the Bills, Machine's going Ravens. Both of us are taking the Chiefs over the Browns.
Yep.
Man or the Machine doesn't want to be a hero. I'm actually doing this for the Browns fans because I didn't pick them last week, so I can't jump on the bandwagon now because I wouldn't want to do that to them. And then Rank has the Buccaneers. the machine has the New Orleans Saints. So before we let you go, Doc, any last words of wisdom or anything like that?
No, with the picks I said, the way you talked about the Buffalo and Cleveland, I mean, even what I picked, who wouldn't want to see Cleveland and Buffalo play?
Yeah. No, I understand.
That
I
would be good
understand what you're
stuff.
saying. By the way, and everybody who is commenting, thank you, Derek, Sam, Roro. If I missed you, Sam's delighting in the fact that I'm talking myself into circles. Listen. It's Monday still, so I'm trying to, talk this out. The notorious YouTube. By the way, again, the notorious YouTube. Anybody who's a Bears fan who tuned in to see me talk about the Bears, you're gonna have to listen. You're gonna have to download the Adam Rank podcast, which is gonna be available on iTunes probably tomorrow, Tuesday. You're going to have to go then and figure that out and listen to me yammer about that. And so I did think Chiefs Kingdom did join us. Oh, Chiefs Kingdom. Oh, he said nobody likes me, but the people who are here like me, so who cares? The doc likes me, so we're having a good time. So, so in any event, why don't you stick right there? So big thanks to Doc Ross and the Machine for coming on one more time. To Mitch Hine, the man who is putting this all together, that is, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can check us out on youtube.com/AdamRankNFL if you want to watch this unfold. At some point, Doc's kids are going to make an actual machine, because I'm going to need that by the time the next season rolls around, because hopefully we'll be doing this starting in the 2021 season as well. So big thanks to everybody who hung out with us here today, and to Doc Ross and to Mitch Hine and everybody else. We will see you next week. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you next Monday. Oh, wait, I got to hit this end broadcast. Make sure you smile.